Sier du fra den? Sier du fra når vi starter, Markus? We're live. Can I start that? Okay. Oh, yes. Now I see myself here. Okay, perfect. So welcome to this this session, introduction to GitHub Copilot with Forte Digital and Microsoft. In 2025, we are doing some training here in Forte Digital on using GitHub Copilot. So we're very excited to learn more about it. If you have some, we will first have some introduction by Maxim, and then we will have questions afterwards. So if you are with us on YouTube, you can just enter the questions in the YouTube stream. So, yeah, take it away, Maxim.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe let me stay. That works for you, just to give a bit more energy. Plus, my team is fully remote these days, and I sit all the time at home. So I look for very good excuses for me to go somewhere, like to visit office of Microsoft or our dear partners. And yeah, I prefer to bring some energy to the room. Yeah, my name is Maxim, and I work in Microsoft. I'm based here in Oslo. My job title in Microsoft is long and quite boring, but in a nutshell, for external audience, I'm here to support developers within our customer and partner organizations to adopt our cloud technologies, our developer tools, and of course all flavors of artificial intelligence. It's just inevitable these days. Yeah, on a bit more personal note, I'm developer myself, or I mean, after joining Microsoft, I stopped being like software engineer as a job title, but I don't like to call myself ex-developer, because for me, once developer is always developer. So I still do lots of projects as a hobby project, side projects for the demos. So yeah, I keep my code editor open every day, and you'll see some of my projects in action, I mean in code editor. And I'm a huge fan of the developer communities. So here in Oslo, right after moving here in 2011, I started first to join meetups, then to co-organize meetups, then organize communities, started to be a very active technical speaker, founded a couple of conferences. So yeah, this is my full-time hobby. Engaging with developers, again, with just generic communities or within particular companies, like this amazing gathering. And yeah, my favorite topics are web development, cloud, AI. And I picked this picture to introduce myself because my second hobby is music and DJing, but not simple one. I mix AI-generated music. So if you see somewhere DJ AI Maxim, that's me, live DJ, working hard on mixing music generated by artificial intelligence. Yes, and feel free to invite me to your corporate parties. My special offer for you folks. But we are here to talk about GitHub Copilot, and maybe like AI assistants in a bit more general, of course, focusing on this particular product that is under super active development by our best friends from GitHub. GitHub is a part of Microsoft, but still operates like a separate brand, like a separate company, and that's for a very good reason. It's brand that's trusted by millions of the developers worldwide. And what's this all about? All these AI assistants, Copilot and any other AI assistant you might already tried. First of all, it gives just faster code completion, and the code completion, this is just tiny part of what AI assistants can do today. And this is important, but at least for me, what's more important, I feel myself more satisfied with what I do. I spend less time on some boring tasks, and I spend more time on what we can call creativity within development, all kinds of brainstorming, ideation, etc., etc. At the same time, GitHub Copilot currently can help me even with these tasks now. So if you look at this well-known software development lifecycle or system development lifecycle, it's more or less the same. All these 6 steps. GitHub Copilot, I think around 3 years ago, started on stage 4, implementation, just code suggestion. You write the code in your editor and your next line of code or next block of code is automatically suggested by some AI assistant, and this line of code is good enough in the vast majority of the cases for you just to hit tab and accept this. So basically, I also call this tab-driven development. You're no longer right? You wrote a couple of lines and then tab, 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 pull request. It comes in different flavors. You can steer this a bit by writing comments to have these suggestions more relevant to the code. And it's perfect for all kinds of repetitive code, like all pattern-based code and scripts and whatever. But again, this was just the beginning of all the story, because it was super clear at that stage that, no reason to stop here. And then with the rise of GitHub Copilot chat, or like a chat-based experience of how we build projects, it became possible to write test, documentation, and basically, chat with your code or about your code. And the recent addition that was actually became available as still preview, but at least it's public preview now, called GitHub Copilot Workspace. It's just from the very, very beginning of your project or feature or fix, when you don't even like have a code, for example, you just want to create something new. But I'll demonstrate this on practice. And the whole idea of this session is to run demos, as many as possible demos, what time allows us. At the same time, all the demos are pre-recorded, so we don't need to spend time on this back and forth PowerPoint, code editor, etc., etc. And also, you know that all AI assistants, not only Copilot, not only code assistants, but all this variety of Copilots, it's non-deterministic, right? And sometimes results are slightly different from what you got like 1 minute before. So not to spend time on this multiple iteration that is inevitable part of all this journey. It's just an excuse for me to show you pre-recorded videos, but at the same time, they're recorded by me using my own projects. And before we dive into the demo, and the rest of the slides are pure demos, let's talk a bit more about this, we can call this tectonic shift in how we build products. Because 3 years ago, who could ever imagine that in our IDE, so there is some space for the code, and prominent part of our display is dedicated to chat. I mean, I could not believe this if someone told me just 3 years ago, but now this is reality, and this is reality for more and more developers, and I mean this is becoming kind of a mainstream commodity. Actually, I heard that somewhere in Silicon Valley, folks stopped hiring developers who are not using AI assistants because they are too slow, right, for current pace of innovation. So why do we ever need to have a chat window near our code editor, or inside our code editor? First of all, if we talk about new code generation, we don't really want to rely on this comments, right? How it started at the very beginning of GitHub Copilot. We better write this in the chat, and then like we don't need to remove these comments after. I mean, it's just a more natural way to steer how we control all this code generation. Then providing context, and this is absolutely crucial point in all AI-assisted development, GitHub Copilot and any other assistants. If you are not able to explain this extension or editor or whatever, which context to use for next suggestion or for answering your question, most likely you will get something irrelevant or not 100% correct. Of course, I mean, we are not talking here about hello world projects, right? We are talking here about real enterprise applications with dozens of folders, hundreds of files, etc., etc. And very often what you want to get as an answer or code suggestion depends on multiple files, right? Not only the one that you currently work with. And yeah, I mean, there are various ways to provide context, and there will be more, and this is like an iterative process. I mean, engineers who build these extensions and GitHub Copilot, they work every day on making this exact point smarter, simpler, and yeah, the more straightforward. Next point about existing code. Again, back to life of enterprise developer. In many cases, we are not writing new lines of the code, right? We refactor what exists, we write tests, we document, trying to understand what happens in this piece of code, right? If it was written by someone else or by us a couple of years ago. Yeah, and yeah, without chat, it's just impossible to get this kind of interaction. Non-coding tasks. Here I mean in first turn terminal. Again, like having terminal as a part of our IDE is mainstream. Again, for enterprise developers, you need not to only write the code, you need to run this code and run a bunch of commands. Again, this is normally normal activity for everyday development. And also we don't want to rely only on the knowledge of this large language model that is powering assistance and sometimes even knowledge about our project, if we are able to provide full context, is not enough. We need to reach out to this or that external source of information to get either like super fresh documentation, or even if we talk about some particular software as a service product, like what kind of resources this particular company or we as individual developers have there, how to connect these services with our current code, what we see in IDE, of course, with all proper authentication and authorization. So yeah, reaching out to these sources is also just impossible without having something as a chat-like interface. Good. Demo time, as promised. And we start from scratch. Just imagine that you are a developer who is trying to build completely new project. Maybe not super often scenario for enterprise development, right? Maybe more relevant for hobby projects, but still, can we get any kind of support here when we don't have any single line of the code? Yeah, of course. What we can do? We can describe architecture. Of course, it's speculation to say that this is well-described architecture of the application, but at least some points to start, right? So we want to use Next.js, kind of mainstream these days for front ends with Material UI, also like popular library. And on the back end, okay, let us try Azure Functions and a few more services. Okay, let me start this demo. And all the demos like 2-ish minutes, so they are pretty short. And I will explain a bit more details right after this short video. So yeah, we described this architecture. We open extension called GitHub Copilot Chat, and we can type something like this. Come up with folder structure. And yeah, all demos are as raw as possible. Without editing, I only sped up a couple of demos, but I'll tell you explicitly where I've done this. I mean, it's just as real as it could be, with all my typos, all my mistakes, etc., etc. Yeah, and you've seen that I sent follow-up request because I heard that App Router is a cool new thing for Next.js, and I wanted architecture that uses exactly this feature, and I got it. Then, yeah, okay, this is just text in the chat, not super useful for me. What I can do now, I can type /new and with slightly more formal syntax, right? Maybe you've seen, you noticed a couple of things that I typed. Yeah, I can click a button and create ready-to-go structure of all these files. Folders, files, everything is created for me. Yeah, this is super quick start of the coding. So what we've seen here, Copilot is great for scaffolding projects. And yeah, projects in general and the features of the projects, or everything that is new. Don't forget that this is chat, and it keeps all previous context of your conversation. So you don't need to provide all explanations from the very beginning every single time. You can just ask follow-up questions or follow-up requests like that happened in example with app router. And also there is a bunch of what we call slash comments in chat available. You just hit slash and you see full list available for your particular IDE with all possible extensions for GitHub Copilot extension installed. Yeah, this is a bit cumbersome. So GitHub Copilot itself comes as an extension, and it has its own marketplace of extensions. This is how that works now. And yeah, this slash comments is a bit more formal way for you to communicate. In the big picture, you can achieve more or less the same what you achieve with this slash comments by just typing, let's say, a natural language request like write tests for me, write documentation for me. But yeah, why not to spend a couple of milliseconds, right, on just hitting slash and selecting what you want to do with this piece of code. And also another important benefit of this slash comments, there is no chance for any kind of misunderstanding, right? Because like natural language is natural language after all, and in some weird scenarios, GitHub Copilot can understand that you meant something different. But if you use slash comments, yeah, it's 100% correct understanding. Okay, now let's open existing project, and I use simple project I created at the very beginning of ChatGPT hype. I call this enter prompt, and this is kind of enterprise based ChatGPT. Basically chat with your own PDF in form of Node.js application hosted on Azure and using Azure functions. As naive as possible, without all modern whistles and bells, like as straightforward as possible again. So, and imagine that we are consultants, maybe relevant for you, right? Who are joining new project. So you got access to the repo. You open internal wiki. Of course, all the links are broken, and the person who is responsible for overall architecture on paternity or maternity leave, you need to run somewhere and ask someone like, what's this project about? How to start? Yeah, can GitHub Copilot help us at least start with this investigation? Yes, let's see it in action. So yeah, we see there is, okay, application folder somewhere, and let's pretend that we are backend developers, and yeah, we need some external like expertise. What kind of backend is here? Also, please note that this add workspace that automatically appeared, and I'll explain you what is this and why. And yeah, after all, we got pretty detailed explanation. Yeah, this is Node.js hosted on Azure Functions, and we can even ask how to start that locally. And again, based on the knowledge of this repo, or in this particular context, we can call this workspace, we got all instructions that are pretty detailed and, what's more important, correct, right? Because there are some dirty tricks I use in this library to bypass course limitations, and surprisingly, everything was listed in correct way. So what we've just seen here. First of all, that's great for any kind of exploration of the project, and maybe like for onboarding in particular. Then, couple of chat participants are available by default, and you can call them by prepending at. Basically, this syntax follows regular messenger syntax. For example, in a group chat with our friends, if you want to tag someone, normally we type @ and their nickname or name. The same idea is here. Of course, with all this latest trends, now it's more popular to call this entities, not chat participants, but agents, right? Agents is a very important word these days. You can call them whatever, right? Chat participants, agents, something that you can specifically tag and ask specific things. In this particular situation, we referenced workspace because to answer our question about what kind of backend is here, it was not enough for us to have like this or that file open, because I mean we don't even know what kind of file I should open to find backend, right? We wanted GitHub Copilot to explore all project in first turn, and only then, based on like findings, provided us with extra with all the instructions. And maybe you notice also that I didn't type at workspace. I only typed what kind of backend is there, and there is a super handy shortcut. If I hit not enter but control enter, it automatically prepends this at workspace, because that's so useful chat participant or agent that it deserves its own shortcut. Furthermore, with the latest versions of GitHub Copilot, now I think I have it here. Hitting enter after you typed something in chat window is not just send, but what's called send and dispatch. Before sending, GitHub Copilot extension tries to understand context of your call, and if needed, it can prepend at workspace automatically for you. I mean, even less mental efforts and typing needed from your side in that case. So just hit enter and check. I mean, of course, if suggestion is of agent is wrong, you can always just send it as a simple request. Yeah, and maybe also you noticed that after this request with at workspace went to somewhere to first, it goes to the extension, right, before ever hitting some cloud API endpoint provided by GitHub. It took some extra time, right? You didn't see like answer comes immediately. And it's for the reason, because, of course, before ever hitting this API endpoint with this super duper LLM model, level of local intelligence was used. And thanks to more and more sophisticated GitHub Copilot extension for VS Code and for all editors, this intelligence becomes like better and better. So first, based on your request, it tries to understand what kind of files could be relevant for answering this particular question or request. It scans these files. If relevant, it includes these files fully as a part of prompt that again goes to the cloud, and we don't see this prompt, by the way. Of course, it's hidden somewhere under the hood. So either full files or parts of the files, everything what's relevant, and we can always check which files and even which lines of these files were sent as a part of the prompt, just to make sure, just to validate that, yeah, this local extension understood context correctly. But again, it's fully automated. We don't need to think which files we need to consider to answer this or that question. And yeah, there is whole marketplace now for all these chat participants or agents. And of course, we have the one called Azure. Super useful if you develop something for Azure. Again, this is not just only source of documentation, it's much more. So again, after you authenticate this extension to access your resources on Azure, you can ask, hey, list my websites, list my virtual machines. How do I deploy this code to web application code like that? Literally, you just connect your code with what you actually have on Azure. Okay, time for the next demo. Now, we opened this indexed.js, and this is a Node.js based application hosted on Azure Functions. And looking at function names clearly visible, I wrote this code in different periods of my life, right? Because it's totally inconsistent, even in the naming. And of course, don't use this code as a reference, right? It's project to be improved by GitHub Copilot during my demos. So yeah, we just want to list all consistent method names for all this variety of syntaxes, right? And to make them consistent with snake case naming convention, they should be. Okay, now I know how to rename this. And why did it ever use this snake case naming convention as example? Because I provided this. I provided this in a special file called copilot-instructions.md that I host in .github folder of my repo. And GitHub Copilot finds this file exactly by this name. So naming is important here and location of this file. And it considers everything I wrote here as instructions for every single question, for every single request, every single code suggestion I ever made. Yeah, you can achieve much more like general and sophisticated level of this, let's say, providing external local context with GitHub Copilot Enterprise tier. I mean, it's next level, but for simpler cases, this particular way of providing extra context that is relevant for every single interaction is good enough. I mean, it's super straightforward, right? So you can host, you can commit this file, you can keep this file as a part of the repo. It's up to you, right? And yeah, it can contain some like team guidelines, company guidelines, everything, or like guidelines that are relevant for this particular project. Super, super useful. Yeah, so to sum up this demo, great for refactoring projects. You can also provide context up to very concrete file with using this special syntax for referencing, hash, file, and then file name. And maybe also noticed that there are tons of micro optimizations in this UI. So once we type hash, we have list of what's available as this kind of targeting. It could be file, it could be editor, it could be viewpoint, lots of exact points what you want to reference as a context. And after you provided file, you can also get list of the files you like recently worked with, or open editors, or just relevant files. Also like for you not to type full name, but just click a couple of arrow buttons and choose what's needed for you. And yeah, of course, don't forget this super powerful feature to provide extra instructions using this Copilot instructions MD file. Next demo. So yeah, after all, we got all namings in correct way, good. But we will also have this regular expression. And definitely I wrote this not myself. Maybe I used Stack Overflow in pre-GitHub Copilot era, and I need some explanation what's going on here, because I don't remember what I meant by this, and for me this is just abracadabra. I asked GitHub Copilot. It gave me a very detailed technical answer, but what I appreciate the most is just in summary. Sometimes it writes in plain language, sometimes it writes like in natural language. This is just to identify and capture content within double curly braces. Great. And I also can send follow-up questions like how can I only pick second entry, and since like regexp syntax in its implementation is not supporting this, there is like extra snippet of code that I might want to add for this particular change. Now, okay, great. I now remember what's going on here, and I want to document this function. I use /doc and got super handy JS doc format for this function. And also, I'm not a huge fan of writing tests, right? And with Copilot now I no longer need to do anything of this manually, because also I select what's needed, /tests, and I get exactly what's needed for my case. Of course, I mean, this is just a suggestion, right? I can go and check. And you see, it adds this annoying generated by Copilot comments everywhere. Why? Because I mentioned this in Copilot instructions. Yes, maybe I need to remove this. Okay, so what we've seen here. Maybe you also noticed that for this particular demo, I started my interaction not in the chat window. I started this straight in the code window. And maybe, maybe you prefer to, like by default, to keep every single pixel on your screen dedicated to the code. Maybe you want this chat part of IDE appearing and disappearing. Totally fine. Every developer selects their own way of building stuff. And yeah, you select code you need, you hit Control-I, if I remember correctly, and you get this subtle window with like one-liner of GitHub Copilot chat where you can type same instruction, like yeah, I've done like /doc/test, whatever. And once this particular way to interact becomes not super convenient, maybe you've seen it, after I asked explanation of this regular expression, wow, this is long one. There is always like tiny icon, like switch to Copilot chat, and now it opened this prominent window with chat where I can like conveniently read what's written there. And there are plenty of these /comments available. Again, back to superpower of /comments. You hit / and you see what's available. And again, this list is not somehow fixed. It depends on your IDE. It depends on extensions you installed. I encourage you to learn more about these comments. Also super simple. There is command called /help, and you will get all the instructions. Now, next demo, and yeah, I use this index.js very heavily for this demonstration session. We have now everything ready, right? And we want to commit this. And Solar Eclipse, I forgot how to create branch on GitHub. What I can do, I can use chat participant or agent terminal that will remind me how to do this or that command in terminal, and using a special icon I can immediately paste command straight to terminal window and yeah, achieve what I want. And now I'm ready to commit, and notice this sparkle icon, because I'm not a big fan of writing commit messages manually. Why do I ever need to do this? Because robots should work for me, right? And in many cases, they do their job much better than me, because even if you talk about commit message, right, sometimes it's something that's spread across multiple files that is done not today, but some days in advance. And instead of writing something like fix or update or something, I want to be friendly to my colleagues and to myself in the first turn, and I better ask these robots that will scan all the changes and write nice, friendly description for myself. Yeah. Use terminal. Maybe for this simplest case, like how to create new branch, you don't even need to use this at terminal, because yeah, 100% you will get correct answer without any extra movements. But for some commands, if you want specifically like target terminal, that's super useful. It's not only about explaining commands, it's also not writing commands, but also explaining. Yeah, you can paste like what this command does, and you will get again human-friendly explanation in nice, friendly language. Yeah, look at all these micro UI improvements, because tiny icons are here and there, and instead of selecting this text that was part of chat answer and pasting this to terminal, I better hover over this line of the code, I find this tiny icon and click this and get this automatically. And yeah, look for more sparkle icons in your IDE, at least in VS Code and Visual Studio, because that means that some AI-powered intelligence is ready to help you, like that happened in this commit message. I mean, in many cases, like you can just ignore this tiny thing, but it can save lots of, if not hours, then minutes of your work. Next demo. We are at the stage when we are ready to create pull request. And first of all, of course, you can do this directly from VS Code. It has a best-in-class connection with all things GitHub. But yeah, for this particular case, I decided to go straight to github.com and check if Copilot is there, and it is. So let's see how can we get help there. And this icon that you see in the description field of pull request is creating summary of pull request, as the name says. I mean, in this particular case, maybe that's not super complex, right? And I mean, I could write this manually, but again, why to spend time? And also, another icon of GitHub Copilot is here, and with this feature, I can open chat straight on github.com. So even without opening my IDE, and it's relevant for you and for all people who access your repo, if it's publicly available, and for you to access all publicly available repositories on GitHub. So basically, if you want to explore some open source repo, you don't even need to clone this. You just hit this icon and start exploring, asking questions. Maybe it's good even for some kind of improvements, right? Because what's really cool with this part is the fact that this chat is not only covering code, because if you look at GitHub repository, it's so much more than just files with the code. It has issues, it has pull requests, it has internal wiki, internal documentation, right? So it's like full scope of information about this particular project. And in this chat, you can ask about everything, right? Even about releases, that is also a separate part of GitHub stories. Super useful. You can just, I don't know, open some issue on some public repo, start exploring this, and maybe your first pull request to open source library will be driven by Copilot. Yeah, so to sum up this one, save time with pull request descriptions, same like I demonstrated with commit messages, but now it's like next level, right? Because normally commits are small and somehow granular, but pull request can contain I don't know how many commits, so definitely larger scope is needed. And again, be friendly to your colleagues. Don't ignore this possibility. Chat with any repo, and also GitHub mobile application includes Copilot, so yeah, you can at least explore code and maybe even contribute code right on your way to work in public transport. It's also possible. Good. Now, this is a demo I recorded this morning, this and next one, because yeah, last time I delivered this session at the end of 2024, and once I checked what's going on now, I was like shocked by a number of new features, and it would be shame for me not to cover what's available here and now. So maybe some sharp edges are here. Yeah, these slides are like a couple of hours fresh. So the same project, but you see that I now realigned slightly panels on in my VS Code, and that's for a reason, because like when we only discussed GitHub Copilot chat, that was totally fine to have it in the same pane, like secondary or primary, up to you, where, like in primary pane, right? Where the main buttons are, right? So they, like, you can, you keep either the tree with your folder structure or Copilot chat. I mean, they didn't work really with each other. I mean, at least not that often. But with release of Copilot edits, that is like not, luckily not separate extension, but separate feature of Copilot, it became super clear that yeah, now you need to keep both folder structure and respective window at the same time. This is why I rerouted this a bit, and yeah, you will see why. So before that, we demonstrated like code suggestions, writing some docs, some tests, and even some refactor suggestions. And basically, in every code snippet suggestion in the chat, there is a button, well, not button, but tiny icon that allows you to either create new file with this code, maybe that's not relevant for many cases, or inject this code into existing file. And this is not about just simple injecting where your cursor currently is. No, it's about smart identifying where this snippet of code is relevant. But good, but not good enough, right? Because we want to something much more streamlined. So once we requested new feature or new fix or new everything, we want the code to be injected into respective files automatically, right? Without spending any extra millisecond on that. This is what Copilot Edits is all about. Let me start this demo. This is where I have folder structure, the same project, but now it's front-end part of this. It's a huge, not refactored file with some UI. And look here. Now there is a separate icon called Copilot Edits. So we switch here. The UI looks very similar to chat. Basically, this is chat, but very special chat. Also, what I wanted to demonstrate here is a new feature that is available now. You can choose model that will be used on API and to respond for your question or request. Yeah, I really didn't compare this model, so I cannot provide you like full information what works better and or faster. Just for demo purposes, I decided to go for this O1 preview. And what I want to do in this particular case, I want to add extra field to the UI of the application. And I know that I need at least 2 files where this code should reside, this general index.js and also special like separate component chat history. So yeah, I explained this by just dragging these respective files into what's called working set, super important content here. And yeah, now I sit and watch how robots work for me, not just by finding answers, but about applying this edits straight in the files. And yeah. So for this demo, actually, before it, then I can just go through suggestions and either accept or discard every one of them. And it's you see that I used few libraries for validation here, and it captured all the details. So yeah, that worked really good for me without writing single line of code. And all validation, all this UI details, correct placement. It even identified good place for adding this user name in the chat. So remember, this project is enterprise chat where you chat with your PDF. For this particular demo, I removed 30-ish seconds in the period when after I hit enter here and this output started. So some extra seconds were required for let's say gathering all needed context and applying changes. So yeah, I want to be super honest with you. So it's a bit slower, but I mean 30 seconds is nothing when you sit and work, right? But it could look cumbersome when I stand and present here. Yeah. So it's super important feature. It's available since very end of last calendar year. Yeah, I mean, not using this is just losing 50% of your productivity with Copilot. So auto implementation of features across multiple files. And now with the latest releases, it even suggests files that are relevant for this particular feature. So this working set can be also auto-generated, but you still have full control. If you feel that this particular file is not relevant, you just remove it or add new if needed. So yeah, you have full control over management. And yeah, try different models. So if you are not happy with speed or quality of suggestions, you can try different ones. And I also know that Google's model, Gemini, is coming to this set of the models. But again, I really cannot provide you with some information what works better, because I didn't try this enough. And the last demo I have here is about even like fancier and newer and even like say less maybe production ready feature. You see it in preview, but it's public preview, so you can go and try, called Copilot Workspace. To some extent, this is very close to what we've just seen with Copilot Edits, but works in a different scope. So in Copilot Edits, you've seen that we worked within like particular files, right? And we created this working set manually, at least for the first iteration, while Copilot Workspace works within context of all your repository. It also like automatically identifies context, identifies changes needed, and implements these changes, but with like full knowledge about your repository, including branches, issues, PRs, everything. So okay, let's give it a try using this approximately the same task that I provided. So I wrote here, add a new field, full name in UI, and show it in the chat history. I hit brainstorm, and it takes a few seconds for the output. And what's happening now, it scans full your repo, identifies files needed for this change, tries to understand its current behavior, tries to understand what's needed for this new behavior that I so silly wrote in just a few words. And also, like, proposed solution is coming in a few more seconds. And of course, the more detailed you write a task, the better for quality of the result. And you still can edit everything here in Brainstorm. If you see that something is wrong, you can send extra questions here. Then you click Generate Plan. Like you remember this software development life cycle, right? So we are at the very beginning of all these 6 stages. That gives us a plan what to do with these particular files. And again, we can fully steer everything, like just point by point. And my favorite part is implement. This is button that I waited for 20 plus years of my the development career. Implement this for me just based on sentence I wrote. This particular part of the video I sped up a bit, you see, by crazy spinning of this loader. So like now it's like 20-ish seconds, maybe it was around 1 minute, so not that long, again, if we compare to our work day and how much time we spend on like making coffee or etc. etc. But that's just amazing. It's not just created plan, but also implemented everything for me. I only need to click button create pull request. I would color this implement button in gold and made it like shiny and sparkling. And on this demo, and you can for this particular case, I started with a new task, right, straight from UI of this particular Copilot workspace. But you will notice GitHub Copilot workspace button in your issues, pull requests, and it can even create a new repository. So, I mean, it's not always needed to be like completely new task. You can start at any point of your project lifecycle. brainstorming, planning, implementing, everything is automatic and everything 100% steerable by you. So you are pilot, remember this. And also, I didn't demonstrate this, but you can share snapshot of what was generated with your team, maybe before sending pull request. Instead of summary, more tips and tricks. And top one, keep on learning how to provide context. 99% of the cases when I see that someone is not happy with suggestions, with answers provided by Copilot, can be fixed by just either providing at workspace or providing particular files. In Visual Studio, you can provide the symbols as a context shared, also using the same hash syntax. And I say not learn, but keep on learning, because this is evolving fast from GitHub engineering perspective to provide more ways, simpler ways, and more powerful ways. Surprise, surprise, but best coding practices still matter. So the more your code consistent, the better comments you have, the better responses you will get as code suggestions. But you remember that we can both fix naming and write comments using Copilot. So this is positive feedback loop, right? And this is good for us. Don't forget that this is not single chat thread. There are endless number of threads, or at least large number. And for every single task or question, I strongly recommend you to hit plus button to create new thread, just to make sure that your all previous interaction are not considered, because they might confuse in some cases. I mean, just remember, new task, new thread. And of course, you can always return to existing threads. So you'll see full list of your threads. Prompt engineering in this particular context is super important, and don't try to multitask, be as specific as possible, and don't expect hundreds of lines of the code as an answer. It doesn't work like that. Every call to LLM has like context window limitation. And yeah, it's not about like limiting like to 5 lines. No, it's still like dozens of lines, but don't expect something like workspace. Migrate this project from .NET version X to version Y. Doesn't work like that. I mean, you'll get something as a good start, but then you'll need to dive deeper into details. Also supported by Copilot. And it shines the most, of course, in all kinds of boilerplate code writing and all these like boring tasks like writing tests and documentation. Not to insult dear technical writers. And all kinds of patterns. Use keyboard shortcuts. I already mentioned multiple times all these micro UI improvements. Like instead of switching your context and take mouse or touchpad, you better learn a couple of shortcuts: how to open chat, how to accept suggestions, how to iterate suggestions. I mean, you will save milliseconds. Iterate. This is becoming new pattern of development. Iterating not like build failed, but iterate this suggestion or this suggestion or this suggestion. Clarify your asks. Provide more details. Argue with Copilot, also fine. I mean, I disagree. Write me something different. You'll get answer. And foundation of everything. You are the pilots. You are responsible for every single line of the code that ended up in master branch, main branch. So yes, don't blame Copilot if something goes wrong in production. We are still not on that stage, right? Maybe next time we meet, I say no. We can just go and drink coffee and Copilot. We are now Copilots, but not now. And my last slide. This is my LinkedIn profile. Just take your mobile phones, scan the QR code, connect with me. My great pleasure to accept all incoming connection requests. Ask me questions about Copilot, AI, Azure, everything. Yeah, and normally I deliver this session for the conferences, right? So I offer this particular session for your team, but I already delivered a session for Forte Digital amazing team. And if you enjoyed how the code looked like in my demos, you can go and search theme October in Oslo on VS Code Marketplace. I created this myself specifically for this presentation because I didn't like what existing ones, so in October I created this theme, and without too much creativity I called this October in Oslo. That's it. Thank you very much. So we have 6 minutes for the questions, if any. Please.
So, why should we use Copilots compared to Cursor or any other Copilots?
Very good question. Yeah. Yes. Let me rephrase this a bit. What are key advantages of GitHub Copilot over other AI assistants on the market? You're absolutely right. The market of AI assistants are super busy these days. I mean, a couple of years ago there was one and only GitHub Copilot, but of course now there are very cool players on the market like Cursor, like Windsurf. Not even saying about slightly different flavor of AI assistants like Lovable, like V0 by Vercel, like Bolt, that focus more on creating like projects themselves. Yeah, there are pros and cons, right? So first of all, you can you better test this in action, right? So and this will tell much better than my explanation. So once you are like happy with this or that, maybe you want to stick there, but specifically for enterprises. I mean, I'm not here to compare code suggestions, answers, all these features. Let's look a bit at larger picture. First of all, best in class integration with GitHub, obviously GitHub Copilot, right? Because team is from the same company after all. And second, for enterprise, all these super important details like governance, license management, code privacy, code exclusions, all these things that are first things that you ever need to double check with like your customer before ever injecting any kind of AI assistant, right? Just to make sure that it's all compliant, all valid, all secure, and the proper level of privacy. Here, of course, there is no even close competition to what's available with GitHub Copilot, and plus Microsoft with 50 years. Yeah, this April we celebrate 50 years of Microsoft. 50 years in enterprise development. I mean, on that sense, we don't have any competitor, but yeah, we super happy to compete with by improving all these UI things. Again, I don't want to focus on like sophistication of the model that is driving this, but here again, I mean, all key models are either by OpenAI, that is a very friendly company to the Microsoft, or now you can even use Claude or Gemini. I mean, it's not about model selection. I personally see main competition in this how well it's integrated to your day-to-day work. And you see that Copilot is releasing new things every single version, all these things. So yeah, to summarize your answer, start with looking at broader picture, like enterprise picture. Second, make sure that you have best-in-class connection with GitHub as a platform. And second, yeah, just check what works better for you. And interesting term that is super relevant these days is shadow AI IT for the companies. When someone like joins the project, for example, as a consultant and started to use individual AI assistant, right? I mean, even like maybe paying for individual license, but working with code, like not theirs code, but the code of some customer. It's stop, and of course it's happening. I know examples, but not how that should be. So yeah. This is how things work. I hope that answered your question at least partially, but I encourage you to try multiple AI assistants. And also super quick follow-up, we now have a completely free version of GitHub Copilot. Like all free AI assistants, it has limitation by number of requests you can send, but at least it's enough for you to give proper try. Again, never use GitHub Copilot free tier for your enterprise project, but for your personal, for try, perfectly fine. Yeah, you had a question.
Yeah, how to formulate it. It's about like improving your prompts, right? Because as you mentioned, like your prompts are pretty simple. And can you then expect to get good answers? Or how would you improve your prompts? How do you work with that? Like, will Copilot itself tell you that the prompt maybe is not good enough? Or, yeah, it's hard to formulate exactly what I'm trying to say.
I think I understood how to make, and yeah, again, let me paraphrase this a bit. How to make sure that your prompt is the best possible prompt you ever can send to get the best possible answer or code completion. Yeah, I mean, this is a big open question, and I see two directions here. First of all, you can learn all this more formal syntax, like /comment, and you then don't even need to write what we can call prompt. It's kind of a special domain-specific language, so it moves to that direction. So we started like, now it's fully natural language, just ask your question in your like English with typos or your language. That works, but maybe not every time, not perfectly, right? So this is direction number one of the development. Learn this formal syntax to make sure that at least Copilot understands your intent. And second, improving like natural language. Still, of course, yeah, you can, and yeah, normally every day you send these prompts written in language. This is why I mentioned this special type of prompt engineering. Yeah, I mean, this is special skill, and I'm personally a super huge fan of prompt engineering. I organized first in the world prompt engineering conference, landed two editions already. Yeah, and I deliver lots of sessions on prompt engineering in general, but this one is, it's, let's say, subset of general prompt engineering, but more specialized, more focused. Super simple recommendation. Don't multitask, be as specific as possible, and provide context. I mean, in that sense, making sure that you provided context, more important, either you typed something with a typo or some ambiguous definition, Copilot is smart enough to understand, but context is super important.
There's something similar to custom instruction in ChatGPT of like how you prefer to interact. Like you showed like instructions for that code, like use camel case or snake.
Yes, yes.
Are there also ways to say that I prefer to be talked to like this, like?
I never tried this, but could be your homework. Just try to provide this instruction in Copilot instructions. Most likely, this will be considered. Okay, you will put it I mean, once something that is under responsible AI definition should work. Yes. Yeah, so if I understand you correctly, this is about how to involve all like gazillions of external libraries to your project. Yeah, that's absolutely possible, and GitHub Copilot is very smart in that sense. And you can always refer to latest and greatest documentation on particular library or project or whatever, because there is one of these chat participants is what's called web search, so you can use this. If for example, you see that documentation and like approaches it provides like from the previous version, I mean, it's the model itself is like all the models somewhere a bit frozen in time, right? So maybe you cannot expect I don't know, React version that was released yesterday. But yeah, with some prompt engineering you will get there. And of course, yeah, I mean, it's all about real world tasks, but not about hello world. It's not about like greenfield projects. No, it's enterprise, all things covered. Who was the next? I don't remember. Okay, maybe.
Speaks first.
Yes.
So I read in the, I think it was in Washington Post, that Salesforce will stop hiring software engineers and will hire sales managers instead due to the AI adoption. How do you see the role of software developers, not in the next 2 years, but in the longer run?
Well, that's either that's better question to either CEO of GitHub or Satya Nadella from Microsoft. Yeah, but at least what I see from here and there, what I hear, then that software engineers as a profession is safe. I mean, it will definitely change, but most likely there will be more software engineers. This is my personal understanding, and maybe it democratizes this discipline to some extent, but at the same time, professional software engineers will be always in high demand. After all, some people are behind building these tools, right? And these tools will become bigger, larger, and more of these tools.
Or you could start working with sales in Salesforce.
Sales is a safe place to be.
Well,
yeah, maybe I also it could be disrupted by AI, because now AI sales agents that send emails and these emails received by another by agents, right? So we sit and drink coffee.
Mm-hmm. Why should you not just always provide the entire code base?
Very good question. So, in simple words, why not always like append this at workspace? First of all, it's longer. It takes some extra time to process this every time. And second, maybe it could be like confusing in some cases, right? And again, if we talk about some large project, and we work in a specific part of that project, I mean, it might happen in theory that all possible space, like all this possible number of tokens in outcoming prompt will be busy by something else, but not something that is really needed for us if we know about these 3-5 files that we know exactly. So yeah.
So you have a better experience by like trying to choose more specific files?
It really depends on the task. There is no one size fits all. Just imagine that it's from your like human brain perspective. For some tasks, like how to start this project, how backend works, you need to have this full scope. For some tasks, as let's say for example you're a front-end developer and you work on this particular form where you need to add a field, you don't care about what's going on there, right? You don't want to overload your head. Also, like kind of you think about like context window, right? The more specific you are, the better for your job. Same here.
You mentioned that well, you wanted to start a lot of threads, right? Or keep set threads. You mentioned something.
Yes,
about,
yes.
I don't know exactly what you meant by that, but is a thread like each chat?
Yeah.
Is that what you meant? Like each time you click the chat button?
Yes, so yeah, maybe I really need to demonstrate this, but in the chat window there is a button plus. Once you click it, you have a fresh new chat window without all your previous ones. Right. And you can have super, maybe not infinite, but super large number of these chats.
It's there.
And each thread is
like
a separate conflict window, so it doesn't
exactly, totally simple. But at the same time, you can there is another button with some like history icon. You can return to your previous threads if needed. Yes, please.
Where's the best place to be updated with new features? And I feel they're coming all the time, but
You're absolutely right. So, yes, the question is where to follow all the latest and greatest. First of all, my LinkedIn. Shameless promotion. And second, VS Code release notes. So if you want to live on the edge, like myself, install, first of all, VS Code Insider edition that's available, and also pre-release editions of these chats. And yeah, I forgot to say, by the way, that I live on the edge in that sense, and maybe not features that I demonstrated are available for your current editor and extension. Just because, something might be as a part of pre-release. Maybe not the feature itself, but at least how that looks. And it changes super often. You decide, do you want to like stay on a stable channel or experiment with new stuff? Yes, and folks, let's stay connected. Let's make sure that let's plan something for, I don't know, next quarter or so. So now you're empowered to use Copilot, and I want to hear real world stories from you. Tell me, Maxim, it fails here. I'm not happy here. Or vice versa, we migrated a project from Angular to React in a couple of clicks. Tell me, this is theory, right, and practice on my silly small project. And I'm eager to hear about large projects. Of course, I mean, with all NDAs in mind, I mean, if you cannot share anything, don't share. But yeah, I'll be super happy to hear.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Så nå kan vi ta litt pause.